The child of the crypt. The sun was setting on a warm summer evening when a group of 5 teenagers gathered near the entrance of the old cemetery, led by the fearless and mischievous Jake. They had dared each other to venture to the cemetery and find the legendary Crypt of the Forgotten. Armed with flashlights and old map, they hesitated for a moment before pushing open the rusty cemetery gate. As they made their way through the graveyard, they stumbled upon a hidden entrance obscured by overgrown ivy. Excited by their discovery, they carefully descended the stone steps into the darkness below. The air grew colder, and the silence was deafening. Upon reaching the bottom of the stairs, they discovered a well-preserved tomb adorned with intricate carvings. Inside the tomb lay the remains of a young girl, her expression forever frozen in a mixture of fear and sorrow. As they examined the tomb, Jake accidentally knocked over a ceremonial urn, releasing a powerful gust of wind that extinguished their flashlights. In the darkness, a ghostly figure emerged, the spirit of the girl, now known as the child of the crypt. Angered by their intrusion, she vowed to exact vengeance upon the teenagers for disturbing her eternal slumber. The terrified teenagers raced back to the surface, only to find that the spirit had followed them. One by one, the spirit began to torment them with horrifying visions and supernatural occurrences. Desperate for help, they turned to the town's local historian, Miss Jenkins, who was well-versed in the lore of the old cemetery. Miss Jenkins revealed the tragic story of the child of the crypt. She had been the daughter of a powerful nobleman who had been accused of witchcraft and executed by the townspeople. In her grief, the young girl had taken her own life, and her father's enemies had cursed her spirit to forever haunt the cemetery as punishment for her father's alleged crimes. Determined to help the spirit find peace and in their own torment, the teenagers worked together with Ms. Jenkins to break the curse. They researched ancient rituals and gathered the necessary ingredients to perform a powerful cleansing ceremony within the Crypt of the Forgotten. On the night of the full moon, the teenagers returned to the crypt to face the child of the crypt one last time. As they performed the cleansing ritual, the spirit's rage intensified, causing the crypt to shake and crumble around them. The ritual was a battle of wills, and the teenagers struggled to maintain their focus amidst the chaos. Just as the crypt threatened to collapse entirely, the teenagers completed the cleansing ritual. The child of the crypt spirit was finally freed from the curse that had bound her to the cemetery. Her vengeful expression softened, and she tearfully thanked the teenagers for their help before disappearing into the afterlife. With the curse lifted, the teenagers emerged from the old cemetery as heroes. They had not only saved themselves, but had also given the child of the crypt a chance to find the peace she had been denied for so long. The Gravekeeper's secret. Samuel Thompson arrived in Ravenswood with little more than a suitcase and a heart full of determination. He had recently been appointed as the new Gravekeeper of the old cemetery, a position that had been vacant for years. Locals whispered about the cemetery's eerie atmosphere, but Samuel was undeterred. His first day on the job, he was met with a chill in the air, and the thick fog that enveloped the cemetery seemed to swallow him whole. As he walked amongst the moss-covered tombstones, Samuel could feel the weight of history pressing down on him. He was determined to unravel the mysteries surrounding this place. One evening, while cleaning the cemetery's small storage shed, Samuel stumbled upon a dusty, leather-bound journal. Its pages were filled with the faded ink of a previous gravekeeper, who had documented strange occurrences and ghostly encounters. Reading through the journal, Samuel discovered that the Gravekeeper had been researching an ancient curse that was said to have been placed on the cemetery long ago. The curse was believed to be the cause of the ghostly happenings, and it was said that a powerful, malevolent force lay dormant within the cemetery grounds. As Samuel continued to dig deeper into the mystery, he began to experience ghostly apparitions himself. One night, while walking through the cemetery, he encountered the spirit of a woman named Amelia. She was a gentle soul who had been laid to rest in the cemetery over a century ago. Amelia revealed that she and the other spirits were trapped within the cemetery by the curse. Unable to find peace in the afterlife, she begged Samuel for his help in breaking the curse. promising to assist him in any way she could, together with Amelia and the other spirits. Samuel worked tirelessly to uncover the source of the curse. They searched through old town records and excavated forgotten graves, gradually piecing together the story of a powerful sorcerer who had been buried in an unmarked grave. The sorcerer had cast the curse upon the cemetery as an act of revenge against the townspeople, who had accused him of witchcraft and executed him. His malevolent spirit was the force that had been causing all the ghostly happenings in the cemetery. With the truth finally unveiled, Samuel and the spirits set out to put an end to the curse once and for all. They confronted the sorcerer's spirit in an epic battle, using the knowledge they had gained to weaken his power. As the battle raged on, the townspeople of Ravenswood began to take notice. They gathered at the cemetery's entrance, their fear slowly being replaced by hope as they watched Samuel and the spirits fight to save their town. In the end, it was the combined strength of Samuel, Amelia, and the other spirits that finally vanquished the sorcerer and broke the curse. The spirits were released from their earthly bonds and found peace in the afterlife. With the curse lifted, the old cemetery was no longer a place to be feared. Samuel continued his work as the Gravekeeper, ensuring that the cemetery remained a peaceful resting place for the deceased. The townspeople of Ravenswood would always remember the brave actions of Samuel and the spirits who had saved their town from the haunting of the old cemetery. The Haunting of the Old Cemetery. Best-selling horror author Cassandra Evans moved to a beautiful Victorian house that bordered the old cemetery. The eerie surroundings served as the perfect inspiration for her next novel. Little did she know that her new home would become the setting for a nightmare far more terrifying than her own stories. Soon after settling in, Cassandra began experiencing strange occurrences. Objects moved on their own, ghostly whispers filled the halls, and shadows seemed to come to life. At first, she dismissed the events as figments of her overactive imagination, but as the supernatural activity intensified, Cassandra could no longer deny that something sinister was at work. As Cassandra continued to write her novel, the line between fiction and reality began to blur. The terrifying events in her book seemed to come to life in the world around her, leaving her questioning her own sanity. She became increasingly isolated, too afraid to confide in anyone about her experiences. Determined to uncover the truth behind the haunting, Cassandra delved into the history of the old cemetery. In her new home, she discovered a centuries-old secret that connected her house to a malevolent force lurking within the cemetery. The spirits that haunted the old cemetery were desperate to escape their eternal torment, and they had chosen Cassandra as their conduit to the living world. As the hunting escalated, endangering the lives of everyone in the town, Cassandra knew she had to take action. With the help of a local historian and a psychic medium, she embarked on a journey to unravel the mystery of the old cemetery and put an end to the terror gripping the town. Armed with knowledge and courage, Cassandra ventured into the heart of the old cemetery, determined to confront the malevolent spirits that had tormented her and her neighbors. As she stood among the graves, the ghosts appeared before her, their ghastly forms writhing in anguish. With the guidance of the psychic medium, Cassandra performed a powerful ritual to free the spirits from their curse, allowing them to find peace in the afterlife. As the ritual unfolded, the ghosts gradually faded away, their tormented cries giving way to a serene silence. The haunting of the old cemetery came to an end, and the town slowly returned to normal. Cassandra's harrowing experience had left its mark on her, but it had also given her a newfound appreciation for the delicate balance between life and death, and the power of love and forgiveness to overcome even the darkest of forces. Cassandra turned her terrifying ordeal into her next best-selling novel, sharing her story with the world. The book's success catapulted her to new heights of fame, but she remained grounded by the knowledge that her encounter with the supernatural had given her the strength and courage to face whatever challenges life had in store. With the hunting behind her, Cassandra embraced her new life, forever grateful for the experiences that had shaped her and the lessons she had learned. The old cemetery remained a constant reminder of the power of the supernatural, but it no longer held any terror for her. Instead, it had become a symbol of hope and redemption, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. in the face of darkness. The Unmarked Grave. Detective Laura Sinclair arrived at the old cemetery, her face expressionless as she examined the crime scene. The first victim was a young woman found brutally murdered near an unmarked grave. Laura was no stranger to gruesome crime scenes, but something about this case sent a shiver down her spine. As more bodies were discovered in the following weeks, Laura began to notice a pattern. Each victim had been found in the old cemetery, always close to an unmarked grave. The victims also shared a striking resemblance to one another, as if they were some link through the cemetery's dark history. Late one night, while searching the cemetery for clues, Laura encountered the spirit of a woman named Evelyn. Evelyn revealed that she was one of many spirits tied to the unmarked grave, cursed to roam the cemetery for eternity. The malevolent force behind the curse was growing stronger, using the spirits to claim the lives of the victims. Determined to put an end to the killings, Laura delved into the town's archives, searching for any information about the unmarked grave. She discovered that it belonged to a notorious witch hunter who had been buried in secret after his death. His restless spirit had placed a curse on those who shared a bloodline with the witches he had persecuted. With the truth in hand, Laura confronted the malevolent spirit of the witch hunter, demanding that he release the spirits and stop the killings. The spirit, however, refused to relent, challenging Laura to a test of willpower and strength. As the battle of wills unfolded, Laura was forced to confront her own demons. She had lost her sister to a senseless act of violence years earlier and had been plagued by guilt and anger ever since. To defeat the malevolent spirit, she had to let go of her pain and accept her sister's death. Emboldened by her newfound inner strength, Laura managed to overcome the malevolent spirit, forcing him to release the spirits bound to the unmarked grave. With the curse broken, the spirits were free to pass on to the afterlife. Finally at peace, the gruesome murders ceased, and the town breathed a sigh of relief. Laura's courageous actions had saved countless lives and put an end to the witch hunter's centuries-old curse. With the case closed, Laura continued her work as a detective, forever changed by her supernatural encounter on the personal journey she had undertaken in the old cemetery. With the old cemetery case behind her, Laura found herself changed both professionally and personally. She had faced her deepest fears and conquered the supernatural, which had given her a new perspective on her work as a detective. Her colleagues and superiors noticed the shift in her demeanor, and she quickly gained a reputation for her ability to solve even the most puzzling cases. Months later, Laura was approached by the mayor of a small, neighboring town who sought her help in solving a series of bizarre incidents. The townspeople believed that their community was haunted, and the strange events had left them frightened and desperate for answers. Laura agreed to help the town and, armed with her newfound knowledge of the supernatural, she began her investigation. As she delved into the town's history, she uncovered a chilling tale of betrayal and vengeance that had left a dark cloud hanging over the community for generations. Laura discovered that the town had been built on the site of an old battlefield, where countless lives had been lost in a brutal conflict. The restless spirits of those who had perished sought retribution for their untimely deaths, manifesting themselves as the strange occurrences plaguing the town. Determined to help the restless spirits find peace, Laura sought the guidance of a local spiritualist who provided her with the necessary knowledge and tools to perform a powerful cleansing ritual. Together, they gathered the townspeople at the site of the battlefield and began the ceremony, hoping to free the spirits from their eternal torment. As the ritual unfolded, the restless spirits appeared, their ghostly forms hovering above the battlefield. The spiritualist and Laura led the townspeople in a heartfelt plea for forgiveness, acknowledging the pain and suffering the spirits had endured. Moved by their sincerity, the spirits accepted their apology and began to fade away, finally able to find peace in the afterlife. With the hunted town now at peace, Laura returned to her work as a detective, her reputation as a solver of supernatural mysteries firmly established. She continued to use her unique skills and knowledge to help those in need, embracing her new path and the challenges that lay ahead. And while the darkness of the old cemetery case still lingered in her thoughts, she knew that she had the strength and determination to face whatever supernatural mysteries the future might hold. The widow's lament. 2 decades after her husband's passing, the still grieving widow, Margaret, made her way to the old cemetery to pay her respects. Over the years, she had tried to move on, but her love for her late husband, Charles, never waned. Clutching a bouquet of roses, Margaret approached Charles's grave, her heart heavy with sorrow. As Margaret knelt by her husband's grave, she was startled by a ghostly figure emerging from the mist. The apparition introduced herself as Abigail, Charles's first wife, who had died under mysterious circumstances many years before Margaret had met him. Abigail's spirit had been trapped in the cemetery, unable to move on. Abigail revealed to Margaret that Charles had been responsible for her untimely death. Consumed by jealousy and rage, Charles had poisoned Abigail when he discovered that she was having an affair. Horrified by this revelation, Margaret struggled to reconcile the image of the loving husband she had known with the cold-hearted murderer Abigail described. Abigail's spirit had been watching Charles from the afterlife, and when he married Margaret, her jealousy and resentment grew. Now, with Margaret in the cemetery, Abigail saw an opportunity to exact her revenge. She vowed to trap Margaret in the cemetery with her, forcing her to suffer for eternity as she had. Determined to escape Abigail's vengeful grasp, Margaret delved into her own past, confronting the mistakes and regrets that she had long buried. She had been blind to Charles's dark side, choosing to see only the love and affection he had shown her. Margaret knew she had to come to terms with the truth about her husband if she hoped to break free from the ghostly love triangle. As Abigail's power over Margaret grew strong, she was given a choice: remain trapped in the cemetery with Abigail and Charles's spirits, or forgive herself and her husband, releasing them all from their eternal torment. Margaret wrestled with the decision, torn between her love for Charles and the horrifying truth of his actions. In the end, Margaret chose to forgive both Charles and herself, understanding that holding on to her anger and resentment would only lead to more suffering. With a heavy heart, she said her final goodbyes to her husband and Abigail, breaking the chains that bound them to the cemetery. As Margaret walked away from the old cemetery, she felt a sense of closure and newfound freedom. The ghostly love triangle had come to an end, and Margaret had confronted the dark past she had been unwilling to face for so long. With a renewed sense of hope, she began the next chapter of her life, finally ready to let go of the pain that had haunted her for decades. With the ghostly love triangle behind her, Margaret decided to leave the town she had called home for so many years. She sought a fresh start, hoping to put the darkness of the past behind her and embrace the new possibilities that lay ahead. Margaret settled in a small, picturesque village by the sea, finding solace in the beauty of her new surroundings. She made new friends, became involved in community activities, and started to rediscover her passions and interests that had been buried for so long. One day, Margaret met a kind and gentle man named Thomas, who shared her love for painting and literature. Their friendship blossomed, and Margaret found herself drawn to Thomas, her heart opening to the possibility of love once more. As her feelings for Thomas grew stronger, Margaret began to fear that the ghostly love triangle would come back to haunt her. She hesitated to share her past with Thomas, worried that it would drive him away or reawaken the spirits that had tormented her. Despite her fears, Margaret decided to trust Thomas with her story, confessing the dark history of her marriage to Charles and her encounter with Abigail's vengeful spirit. Instead of pushing her away, Thomas embraced Margaret, offering her comfort and understanding. His unconditional love and support helped Margaret to finally release the last remnants of her past. Margaret and Thomas embarked on a new journey together, sharing their love for art, literature, and the simple pleasures of life. Margaret found happiness in her new relationship, cherishing the second chance she had been given. Years later, Margaret and Thomas returned to the old cemetery to pay their respects to Charles and Abigail. They found the cemetery had been restored, with the spirits that had once haunted it now at peace. Margaret and Thomas left flowers at the graves, acknowledging the past that had brought them together and the love that had set them free. Together, they walked away from the old cemetery, hand in hand, their hearts full of gratitude for the life they had built and the love that had triumphed over the darkness of the past.